energy efficiency begins with machine health because it's the gift that keeps on giving. Okay. If you can have a line improve its efficiency from 50 to 60, 10 points, right? That is a big number, right? It can really throw off huge savings in energy. And by the way, if you do that, you're probably also going to be able to reduce your waste, right? And even if you just focus on energy by itself, there is a bunch of stuff that you can do, like chase down your leaks of compressed air. We spend so much money on electricity for compressed air that you'd be surprised how much an energy audit could save you. Hi, I'm Ed Bellino.
Hello, guys. Alvaro Cuba here.
So, hey, welcome to the third season of the Manufacturing Meetup podcast. We're 3 in. This is a show where, we kick back in our downtime and we talk about the realities of the shop floor and how to keep ahead of the barbarians. Because as we say, manufacturing, the barbarians are always at the gate. But what a fancy hat you have there, amigo. This is very cool.
Oh, this is my safari hat. I use it twice in Africa and one in India. And sometimes these days I use it in Florida when I play golf. So very, very interesting.
Very impressive.
What about yours, Vinny?
Mine is not quite as exciting. So when I left Pennsylvania, it was very, very cold. So I had to keep myself warm with my hat. And when I got here to Raleigh, North Carolina, it was 82 degrees. So this hat quickly went in my suitcase. I'm just sweating right now for our viewers. These are the sacrifices we make, so you can see my hat. So that's my story about my hat. It does keep me warm. Hey, all kidding aside, folks, we are facing, some pretty challenging times, right? Not to say that the supply chain isn't always, dealing with chaos, but this is a little extra special. The current geopolitical climate really brings a lot of uncertainty, cost pressures, tariffs with the changes, labor gaps aren't easing. There is so much going on right now. And, if you just think about what's happening in the Middle East and the impact that has on not just oil and fuel pricing, because that one's easy to understand, but it ripples throughout the whole economy. Pretty soon, we're going to start seeing fuel surcharges on everything you buy because, diesel's up $1. So lots going on, and it all impacts your manufacturing operation.
Yeah. And well, we'll do the same we did with tariffs, no? So we are not here to talk about politics. We are here to talk about what we guys can control, what you guys in your shop floors can control. And energy cost is just the tip of the iceberg, no? Because the ripple effects that bring into all the other points in the economy. It compounds with supply chain disruptions, and it also compounds with how the consumer starts behaving different, which impacts your demand. No, so but we are supply chain, and what's common about supply chain? No matter what crisis, we are always there. Somehow, we always deliver. So we are here to talk a little bit some ideas that can help in this situation and how not only you can deal with it, but get out of it in a better shape than you are today. So, but before we jump right in, please first hit the subscribe button at the bottom of the page so you don't miss the conversations. And with that, let's get started.
Let's get started because remember, in supply chain, the barbarians are always at the gate. They change dress and color, but they're always at the gate. Let's get them.
Okay, so let's start with what's happening and how it hits manufacturing. So quick framing. Supply chain routes for oil and gas are difficult these days. You know, the Strait of Hormuz, Venezuela's oil, the Black Sea, and from one day to the other, you can see from $80 a barrel, 120, it goes down. It depends on the news. The volatility is huge. And the other thing is in the Augury Production Health Survey, this came as the number 2 biggest issue that you guys are experiencing. So when you combine that, it's obvious. Direct hit into your energy cost and your gas, your electricity. But it didn't stop there. It goes to things like resins and feedstock and lubricants and transportation, things where oil and gas goes directly into it. But it continues, goes on and on, because then you start having the disruptions. No, and then you have spare parts and raw and pack, and all of that starts disrupting because their producers cannot produce, or their prices start going up and down. And then, as we said in the introduction, as this is something that impacts the entire world, it does not only impact the production side, it also impacts the demand side. So the consumers are starting to get worried. They start changing what they consume, what they buy, no? And that affects not only manufacturing, supply chain, procurement, the entire end-to-end supply chain. So it's a compound effect. How you see it, Ed?
No, most definitely. As you look at this and you frame it with all the other concerns or challenges, I should say, that we've been facing, there's a lot to take in, right? We still have the whole tariff question, which it's settling down, but it's still somewhat volatile. Our labor gaps
News
are still
continue.
there. Yeah. And you're trying to plan for all this. I almost see it as, I hate to say it, but it's almost like COVID 2.0, right? Where now you are really taking a chance on severely, disrupting the supply chain. And from a consumer experience, sooner or later, you're going to start seeing fuel surcharges on everything you buy, because whether, oil is involved in the creation of the product or not, America moves on wheels, folks. Those tractor trailers that deliver most of our goods are now paying $5.70 a gallon for diesel. That's a buck more than they were not too long ago. So, I mean, it's going to challenge our costs, our ability to, provide the service levels.
30% up.
Yeah.
So when you say a buck up is one thing. When you think 35%,
right?
Oh wow, that is going to ripple effects in your costs.
No, that's absolutely. So energy purely on its own, and let's call petroleum byproducts, they're a huge part of our costs and our P&L. But what we're here to tell you is this octopus has got a lot of legs.
Yeah.
We were just looking at a couple. This has got wide ramifications.
Yeah, a lot of tentacles.
Yes,
guys,
tentacles. Thank you, not legs.
Guys, do you know, quick, how much the 30% impact on fuel or energy is going to impact your output costs, your input costs? No, you better go quick to your finance guy and do some simulations, because you will need that. We'll talk later in how to sell these, but also how to motivate your people. No, everyone has to be all hands together, and it's important that you manage this kind of numbers.
Absolutely. Your point, Alvaro, is a real good one. Find out what the impact of this is going to be on your business before somebody knocks on your door and says, you got to make up $4 million because we are just seeing our cogs, blow through the roof. Have an answer, right, and a point of view and a strategy because the call is coming. It's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
Which kind of
And
like, go ahead.
no. What I was going to say, it is possible to deliver that, but not cutting on energy prices. So once you understand where it hits and how you can react in those lines, you are going to be ready for what Ed it's point out. So you'll be ready.
Yeah, and in our typical fashion, and you might have figured out by now, is we're going to slap you over the head with the bad news first. We're going to cry a little bit into our beverage, right? And then we're going to shake it off. We're going to go, okay, wonderful. So what do you do about it? Because you know what? If you come to me with nothing but problems and no solutions, the door to my office won't be open too often for you, right? So
Yeah.
we want to come to you, say, hey, Captain Obvious here. We have a problem, right? We're Captain Obvious. We're telling you have a problem. But also, what are some things that you can do
But we
to
are supply
control?
chain, so we do these three phases. No, the crying, and
The
then
crime.
the washing the face, and then the reaction. And I'm sure our listeners are like that. So,
It's
what
action focused.
can we control?
So what is it that we can control? And we have some ideas, right? Unfortunately, when things like this happen, the very first knee-jerk reaction is to start cutting costs, right? Cut this discretionary. And again, I don't want to go down the rant of maintenance costs are not discretionary because I don't want to continue going down there. But, you know, that is the first knee-jerk reaction. But you may be asked to cut money out of R&M, cut money out of overtime, right? Cut costs. But you know what? What happens if in that attempt to cut costs, you delay a rebuild in a piece of equipment? And 4 months from now, when you are in even more dire straits, your piece of machine fails and now you're down for a week and a half or two. You think your customer is going to care that you did it to cut costs? They're going to see that you failed to deliver, right? So what is the real lever here, right? Energy efficiency begins with machine health because it's the gift that keeps on giving. Okay. If you can have a line improve its efficiency from 50 to 60, 10 points, right? That is a big number, right? It can really throw off huge savings in energy. And by the way, if you do that, you're probably also going to be able to reduce your waste, right? And even if you just focus on energy by itself, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do, like chase down your leaks of compressed air. We spend so much money on electricity for compressed air that you'd be surprised how much an energy audit could save you. I've seen plants save $20,000, $30,000 a year. I mean, look at where you have motors running hot, drives underperforming. These are all opportunities for you to directly hit the energy portion. And oh, by the way, it'll also help you drive efficiency, which will drive benefits in the other buckets. So, Alvaro, you have ideas there as well.
Yeah, well, more than anything, reinforce what you just said. No, the biggest lever is these days we call it machine health, but Deming in the 50s, TPM, everything that you go after you cover the basis, strategy, organization, and training. The very first pillar you always go after. In those times, it will call AMPM, autonomous
Right.
maintenance, procurement, preventive maintenance. And that is a reason. Look at the Japanese. And the reason is if you don't have your machines up and running, and they are going down and down because the failures goes on and on, then not only you have waste, but also reprocess. It stops every time. your people goes into a firefighting mode.
Yeah.
The mechanics go like crazy around trying to fix something. The operators are trying to help, and it's really a chaos. And then nobody has time to do the improvement part. No, so machine health in the modern days, we say machine health because it has evolved, thanks God. In Ed's time, my time, even in COVID 5 years ago, we were still on preventive maintenance, how to move from reactive to preventive. But how much preventive can prevent?
Yeah, right.
50%, 60%. Nowadays, we are lucky that in the last 5 years, the technology has jumped significantly, and now we have machine health with the sensors and AI and other predictive health. Just one number, 99% efficiency when you do predictive maintenance well.
Absolutely.
And then you free a lot of your mechanics. You make the life of your operators super easy. And then they can really focus on what matters. In this case, you want to be as efficient as possible. If you want to save in energy, you don't want to stop the line. You don't want to produce waste or reprocess. No, you need to be flexible to cover the peaks and valleys of the demand. And you need quality to fight in the market. So all this comes with this. So that's what I was reinforcing what Ed said. That's a real lever that you can use. And I don't know if you are in agreement with me, Ed, but I would recommend that's the first to go.
Right.
And do something about it. And the good news is it's going to put you in a better situation when we are off of this crisis.
You're building capability. At
the same time that you are saving energy. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. And, I'd like to leave you maybe, look, we realize that sometimes when we give you some advice, we know it's not easy, folks, right? And, and sometimes it takes time and organizational, these things take time. So I'm going to try to give you some real easy, execute today, and I can guarantee you're going to get benefit. First, I talked a little bit about compressed air systems, right? One of the biggest hidden costs of energy are air leaks. And air leaks also degrade, you not only use more energy, but you also degrade the quality of your compressed air, et cetera. You can go out and buy a handheld ultrasonic meter, right? They're probably less than $10,000. I've seen some as low as $5,000, but some really good ones with screens and around, that $7,000 to $10,000 range, where you can literally just walk around your facility following the compressed air lines, and this thing will actually tell you exactly where it's leaking. It'll show you on the video of what it sees where the leak is coming from. No longer do we have the old ones that look like a bullhorn, right? With, you had to aim it and all this. No, this thing is visual. I've seen it work. It's amazing. You could literally save $50,000 a year in your compressed air system by cutting down your leaks. And by the way, if you cut down your leaks, you may be able to reduce the pressure of your compressed air system. Today, you're running it at 110 because by the time you get it to the last use, because you leak so much, you're down to 75. Maybe you can run it at 80 because you don't have leaks anymore. So anyway, that's one. Second, quick hit. Buy yourself an infrared meter, an infrared thermography camera. I know I kind of bring this up all the time because I am, partial to it. But my God, they're so cheap. For $5,000, you can buy yourself a really good FLIR camera. And, if you haven't done this before, shock yourself. Have somebody with the proper, protective gear, open up your power panels and just point the camera at it. You may be frightened at what you find and what is waiting in the weeds, to eat your lunch. So those are two real quick ones, right? But getting back to the point that Alvaro was making about focusing on machine health, when you shut down a piece of equipment, right, you are obviously stopping production, but you're not stopping the usage of energy. In many places on some of these lines, you'll see that the filler continues to run in slow speed because we're getting ready. The conveyors don't shut down because we don't have it interlocked. So every time you shut down, you have all these phantom stealth losses, right? That you don't think about, but they cost you real money. So you can do the compressed air stuff and the infrared stuff to give you some quick wins, but the real money comes in machine health and in efficiency.
Yeah.
And to support Alvaro's point, preventive maintenance only truly affects about 15% of failures, because only 15% of failures are time based. Okay. The other 85% of the failure modes, we've all seen this, the different bathtub curves and all that, they don't vary with time. And that's what PMs are
They
all
just
about.
occur, yeah, when you are not monitoring your equipment properly,
Yep.
which is impossible without the sensors and the new technology.
Exactly.
But as Ed says, this is not about cuts, guys. And we talked about this before. You are going to be asked to save money.
Right.
You are not going to be asked to cut. That's the normal instinctive way to go, no? Oh, I have to save, let's cut. The answer is efficiency, because efficiency goes a long way. No, it's not only cutting in something that you will need later. Efficiency, it goes not only in your machine, it goes in your production, it goes in your people. No, raising your MTBF, mean time between failure, from minutes or an hour to 3, 4, 5 hours. It gives you production, quality, safety. It gives you all of the above, plus the flexibility to react to demand. No, so look for those efficiency points. Ed was pointed to some, and put your entire people to think about how we run more efficient, how the line never stops, how we produce with zero quality defects or zero waste. That's the kind of approach that I experience, Ed experience, and we recommend you follow.
And look, we get it. It's not easy, okay? Because when somebody's asking you to cut, they're asking you to cut now. And in some of these situations, you may be asking for money with a big return later on. So, work your plan, because you're going to cut or you're going to cut. I like Alvaro's, the way he spins this, right? You're going to innovate or you're going to innovate.
Yes.
So you choose, be the master of your own destiny.
How we sell it, how you just mentioned one important thing. They are going to ask to cut. Right. How you present the other part, how you sell it.
Yeah, that is a challenge, right? The CFO or the plant director or the vice president of manufacturing is going to want to see the dollars, right? But if you can sell, first of all, and I'll apologize for this ahead of time, I am a bet for forgiveness versus ask for permission kind of guy. Okay, it is risky, but if you think you can pull it off, right? If you're a plant director, how many of you can't go out and buy a $5,000 thermography machine without asking anybody? Come on, you're running a $20 million a year enterprise and cost alone, if not more. You can find a way to spend $5,000 on something like that. And then when you show, right, or even rent it, right? When you show leadership, hey, look, you asked me for balance a year, $500,000 of cuts. I'm not cutting. Here's how I'm going to get it for you. Look at the pictures that I just took. This was a failure that was going to happen, or these are leaks that we were going to see. If I, invested, I will get you the three. You never give them what they ask for, too, by the way. That's another trick. Yeah, if they ask you for 5, commit to like 350. You may have that 150 in your back pocket, but you got to schmooze. So anyway, if you can show them the proof of the pudding, how's the CFO going to argue with you if you show him a picture of a electrical circuit where the third leg was glowing cherry red and you were going to blow a machine up if you didn't shut it down. You wouldn't have found that without the infrared equipment. Pictures sell. So
Yeah.
that's an idea.
And couple others quick ones. One is machine health and starting to get your machines better, different than before. One, you don't need to ask for investment. It works as SaaS. So
Right.
you don't need to put the money up front. No, you buy the service as a software, they put it in your lines, and it takes 2-3 months. So it's not that you are needing a year to get the money back. In 2-3 months, you are getting these signals that allow you to go and do the predictive maintenance. The time of your mechanics will go down, your operators will feel better, then you can involve them into continue to find a better way. So it's not difficult and it's fast. No? And the other idea is you need to think a little bit more holistically. No? The CFO or the senior management, they kind of get it, but don't get it. Reliability and
Right.
maintenance and those kind of things. No, what they get is global efficiency because it translates directly into the bottom line. They want to hear ROI. Now, if you give a good ROI, and you can get these days in 3 months, 8x, 6x ROIs with the new technology that is out there. There is, my experience, I don't know you, Ed, but there is no CFO that is going to say, go for it, if they hear 6x, 8x.
They're going to say, where do I sign? Right?
Yeah. And then you translate for them and tell them, hey, this is not only going to improve the manufacturing plant, and it was alluding to that. No, it's going to be manufacturing. It's going to build capability, as Ed was saying, and third, it's going to impact the other pieces of the business. No, it's going to allow you to sell more. It's going to allow you to have more capacity in the lines, so you can change and do faster changeovers, which helps on putting different products on the shelf. It's going to help you to reduce cash because if your lines go better, you need less inventory. Yeah.
Yep.
No, and those are music to the CFO ears. So those are some ideas you can go after.
I was chuckling because I remember one time going into my SVP GM, and we had some sort of an equipment failure in the middle of sales, and I'm not explaining to him, hey, well, the bearing and the this and that, and we were tight, and he just looked at me, he goes, hey, just get the hamsters to go faster, okay? That's it. His eyes glazed over. I started talking about the specific gravity of bubble gum, and he was like, just tell the hamsters to go faster, okay? Any product. Yeah. He was
and with this you can do it. And
with this you can do it.
Go for it, guys. Hope you found some of these ideas helpful.
And to your point, Alvaro, you need to understand, right, what is the data that you're going to bring, right? And what is the language they're speaking in? Because if you're a plant manager, sometimes, your P&L is all cost, right? And you're trying to show, I'm going to, you want to reduce cost here, but here's what I'm going to do. But when you start talking about supply chain costs, you start talking about transportation. Hey, I'm not going to have to insource that product because now I'm producing it myself. You start talking about customer delight. I'm going to reduce your out of stocks because my line is running more efficiently than it ever did. When you're talking to a sales GM, They want to hear, how are you going to get me the product that I need when I need it and at the, the right price? And then, yes, I'm interested in cost, but I live and die by sales. So do not ever out of stock me. Okay. End of story. Efficiency and cost. Yeah, I like it, but first you got to be my product. You got to know what room you're in.
Yes.
So hopefully we gave you some ideas, right, as to, what you can do here. But, uncertainty for us in supply chain is not new. I saw a headline the other day
And
that said,
uncertainty is the only certainty in supply chain.
Yes.
Yes.
That is
Perfect.
masterful. Because I
Yeah.
was going to, the quote that I read was, uncertainty is the new certainty. And Alvaro and I looked back and said, oh, how boring. That's how we live our lives. So
30 something years.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, friends, this is another episode, and we are so glad to be here with you in our third season in the first episode. So, thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for joining in the manufacturing meetup. If you enjoyed the episode, please like us if you are watching in YouTube, and give us a review if you are listening in iTunes. And more important, share the podcast with your friends and allow them also to get a little bit of these nitbits that can help you in your plant. Thank you.
So if you want to keep the conversation going, you can email us at mmu@augury.com. We'll also have links in the show notes of this episode and also related episodes.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.